Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee, Caryn, with me, Caryn. We're here live. That's what I was trying to say. Okay. Just want to make sure everything is there, which it is. Perfect. And just sharing this out super fast to Facebook since we have had a problem with that before, and unfortunately I did not get set up for Instagram, so oops, that just happens sometimes. It's fine. So let's make sure that everyone is here, everyone's live. So today is a really awesome ritual that I have planned for us. It's more like a guided meditation. It's actually a ritual that you can do for yourself anytime you want, anytime you are trying to reclaim your power from something. So this is really good for when you've already done a lot of the healing work on yourself and yet you seem to be continuing to have the same pattern still. So what I mean by this is maybe you know that you had a pretty fucked up childhood. And you realize that you've done all this inner work. You've gone to a therapist, you've talked to your parents, you've gone to 1,000 different Reiki masters and energy healers and your life coaches and your transformational coaches. And your childhood doesn't, like, telling the stories of what used to bring you to tears or things that you never thought that you would ever tell anyone. You're now out in the world telling those stories, bringing a voice to those causes. And yet somewhere else in your life, that pattern is still showing up. So maybe now your spouse is starting to act a whole lot like your father did. Or maybe you're noticing that you are taking on some of those qualities and your children, like sometimes you get to that point where you're like, wait, am I talking to myself from like what is happening? Because that's the stuff that I used to say to my dad. And so you realize that somehow that pattern that had all that trauma, that place that held all those trapped emotions, that you're now free from the trauma, but you still haven't fully reclaimed your power back from the experience. That's what this ritual would be really useful for. So I wouldn't say the most potent way because it really does work no matter what, but if you can go to the place where the trauma occurred, it does add a sense of completeness. Like I did this recently with my old high school, which is being torn down right now, and I had a lot of trauma go on during high school. Just was not a woke bitch back then, I tell you what. I don't think any of us were, right? It's high school. But I stood outside the high school, like across the street, while they were doing some of the tearing down, especially when they were taking down the section of the school where the drama department was, where I had spent a lot of my time, and where there were a lot of stories, where I hadn't gotten into the play or where I hadn't gotten into the production. There was this class that you had to try out to be in, and because of the way that I looked and all these other things, I was always going to be cast as the mom in high school. It was just going to happen. And there were two other girls also would just be cast as the mom, and they were better singers than I was. So even though I was most definitely better in the acting department, the teacher did a lot of musicals, and since they were better singers, they won. For all 3 years, there were two other women that would get chosen, two or three other women that all were also in the choir classes, and I had such a hard time in junior high with choir that I was too scared to even try out for I don't even think I took a choir class. I think that I literally refused to even participate in choir during high school because of how bad. So, right? So we have those types of stories. So what would have happened if I hadn't let my junior high teacher fuck with my head when it came to singing and had gone on to singing in high school? Like, who knows how my life would have been different, right? And as someone who you guys know works with timelines a lot, it came to me like, okay, well, even if I can't actually go through in this physical timeline and live those experiences of what it would have been like if I had, again, this what if, you guys know I love the what if game. What if I had been in all of the drama department, and like what if I would have gotten a scholarship, and what if I had gone to New York, and what if my livelihood was affected dramatically right now during 2020 because I'm an actor in another, like a world renowned Tony Award winning actress in another lifetime, right? So when you play around with limitless possibilities the way that we do in superconscious living, when you work with me, when I'm teaching you how to live super consciously, the course that I've created is called Superconscious Living, which really is just like aligning you to your own unique frequency of having the fullness of all of your power that you're capable of having throughout all of time and space, to the point where like time and space doesn't even exist anymore. You're just constantly in the creative energy of love, and you're in constant creation mode every single moment, creating your life, creating circumstances for your life that relate perfectly. You always are creating a microcosm to the macrocosm, or even multiple scenarios and metaphors that you can just play off of in your own life. So, for example, today I started this live stream 20 minutes late because my dog got stuck on the mountain today. Um, you guys have been hearing I'm going hiking every single day. I'm kicking lots of booty doing that. Today I decided to take a different path, a path I've never taken before. And because I had no idea where it went, and it was still straight up, like either way I was going was straight up. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I can go this way. And we got to this little cliff area, and my dog got stuck. He walked over another little rock and he slipped, and I was like, oh, he's gonna, like, something's wrong. And he slipped and he got over, but because his hind legs had slipped on the way over, he didn't trust. He's only 5 months old. He didn't trust, like maybe 6 months at this point, that he could get back down. And his harness wasn't tightened the right way. So his harness is a really good one and it fits right, but I have to like tighten it before I put it on him, or it does exactly what it did, which was when I tried to grab him, he was able to pull against me and actually just slipped right out of the harness. I'm actually just going to go get him another harness that's going to fit him for probably only for this summer until he grows into his other one. But after this experience, again, learning lesson. Learning lesson. It was a lesson. Um, what I ended up having to do, actually, like I was on the mountain. I don't even know, it probably was like almost an hour that I was dealing with this, like maybe a little less. And I couldn't get him. I was freaking out. I ended up calling my friend who has dogs and goes hiking and mountain climbing and stuff. And he has this giant hematoma. So like even though he'd be technically the closest person, and in a different time and space, I would have just waited up at the top of the mountain for him to get there, because it would have been like another 20 minutes. My friend right now is bedridden from a giant hematoma from crashing on his bike and bending his handlebars into his stomach. So he had to tell me what to do. My husband was at home with our two little kids, so he couldn't come up. He doesn't go hiking with me. He wouldn't know where I am anyway. And my oldest was sleeping over somewhere, so it's not like he could leave with the kids. Like it was me by myself on this mountain, right? Freaking out. And I had to remember, like, no, you're learning a lesson. You are creating this moment for yourself as a lesson. So what is the lesson? And I climbed up and over this other rock. I don't rock climb. This was like me literally, like, if I would have slipped, I could have really gotten hurt. I am very aware of this, but there was nothing else that I could do. Like how moms can pick up cars, right? And it wasn't actually that scary. Like later I called my friend and told him where I was, like showed him a video, and he's like, oh, that was perfect little rock climbing experience for your first one. But I had to climb up and over this rock to get to the ledge where my dog was and sit with him for a minute and just be calm. And we just were like, okay, it's fine. And then I was able to grab him by his neck and pull him down, because the jump down that he needed to take in like another, by next winter, by next summer, he's going to just take it. He's just going to like, look, it's not that bad. It wasn't that high of a jump. It was that he was scared. He's a tiny little puppy. Like, he's not tiny, but he's a puppy. And he was freaked out. He didn't know how to get down, and he was whimpering, and he was so afraid. And I had to climb up and over. Well, it was the perfect analogy for what's going on in my own personal life right now, where I am going up and over this perceived thing that happens, where a lot of women end up waking up, and they realize that the marriage that they had before they woke up and before they went through their transformation, before they created their businesses, is just not up to standard. And this phenomenon that I see of, well, are you actually giving the person who supported you in your transformation a chance to change? Or are you just going to leave them out there on the ledge? Or are you going to, like, you have all these books, you have all these things. Oh, yeah, I tried. But did you really put in forth the effort? Do you really think you're worthy of having this amazing man who supports you? Okay, it was like the perfect analogy for me, because that's what I've been having to do. I've been having to go up and over and like meet my husband where he is. You meet them where they are, meet people where they're at. I do this with my clients. I did it with my dog. I do it with my kids. I'm doing it with my husband. You have to go. Sometimes meeting someone where they're at isn't just walking across the bridge and like holding their hand and walking across the bridge. It's climbing up and over a giant rock to sit with them on the ledge and be like, okay, you want to climb down safely? Because we can climb down safely. There's a safe way that we can climb down, and we move on together and we keep going together. Or there's a place where I just leave you on this ledge. There's a place where you just jump off this ledge and break all your arms, or something else happens. Like, it was for me the perfect analogy, not just for my relationship with my dog or my husband, but also with my clients and with what I want to do in the world, with being a world leader, with being someone who was truly changing this world from a leadership position where the masses are listening and waking up every time I'm talking. It's why I do this weekly live stream, why I have my leadership group, membership group, why I have one-on-one clients who are all over the world doing things behind the scenes that here in a couple more months or even a year or two, you're going to know our names, because we have been creating the structure on the back end while the current structure is blowing up. There really is a support system, a lattice of I don't want to call it a safety net, but like this net of creation that we are making on the background while all of the current grid is just being blown up. All of the current structure. I think of it as like we've been in a square, like a cube, and now and while the cube is being destroyed and everyone thinks they're like, oh my God, the cube's breaking. They don't realize that there's actually this giant, like, octahedron, not even octahedron. Yeah, maybe. Like, it's not a sphere, because there are definitely, like, a diamond. Like, there's this giant diamond, so maybe that is an octahedron, like, around them. Octahedrons are a diamond. I'm trying to think of what it looks like when it's like, I don't remember what it's called, but essentially whatever a octagon is, once you blow it up and turn it into a three-dimensional shape. Hey, Erica! Woohoo! You found me! So that reclamation of power, reclaiming your power, for me now becomes that fast, right? I went from worrying on the hill, worrying on the mountain, freaking out that my dog was going to be trapped there forever, or that I was going to get hurt trying to get him, or I was going to have to wait until some hikers came and put them at risk trying to help me with my dog. Like, he weighs like 40 pounds, and he's gangly and awkward. And by the time we got down and like slid down the rest of the way and we're like back walking on the path, I was just laughing. I was laughing at the metaphor that I had just described to you. I was laughing at how perfect everything was. I was able to reclaim my power from what could have been a really stressful situation. Like, I could have been traumatized from that. If you think about it, think about what that would have been like for some other person that maybe isn't super solid in what their process is of how to work through emotionally charged experiences, which is what superconscious living really is how do you move through emotionally charged experiences so that the emotions don't get stuck so that you can then create something new. And like, I would have maybe never gone hiking again, or maybe never gone up that specific canyon again, or maybe would have never, um, I would have made sure to go freak out and like actually been a Caryn and go freak out at the manufacturers of the harness because it slipped off. Like, there are so many things that I know previous versions of me would do, other versions of me would do, and yet because I have my process of, okay, I believe that I can get my dog off of here and I can break through my own limiting belief that I can't just go up and over. I can be calm. But when I was on the phone with my friend who couldn't do anything, the only thing he kept reminding me was, if you're freaking out, the dog is freaking out because the dog can pick up your energy. And if he's freaking out, he can't find an easier way down. And if you're freaking out, you can't find an easier way down either. So take some deep breaths. Call me when you get him down. I know you got this. And then we hung up. And then I don't know how long it was. I didn't really actually time it, but I left my house at 7:20 and didn't get home until 10 o'clock. Normally, if I leave at 7:20, I'm home at 9 at the latest, and that's if I was being super lazy and slow. So it was probably almost an hour that I was up there trying to get my dog off of the side of this ridge that he had gone. It was like a little outcropping rock that was like a cool place for me to go up and sit. But once he was trying to come up around, he got stuck. So, again, another lesson. Is this somewhere that's legit for both of us to sit, or am I just thinking about myself? Ooh, thunderstorm. I'm all of a sudden feeling really bad for some of the people that I saw walking past me that maybe are still on the mountain. So this power ritual, so that would be one thing. So what I did was just be like, I'm reclaiming my power from this situation. It's so, so easy. Let's give you another example that's not so in the moment though. So what was I doing at my high school? I stood across from my high school and I thought about all the things that I just told you about. I thought all of the times that I didn't get into into the drama classes, when I didn't make the school plays, when I was running around through the halls, when I was being called nicknames like Big Titty Norton because I had 36 G breasts and ended up having a breast reduction when I was 17. I was exempt from gym class because of this, so I was pretty out of shape. I was tall, 6 feet tall, super smart, always the teacher's pet, always trying to seek approval outside of myself. Had all of those wounds from my childhood, always trying to be perfect, trying to keep it safe. So I never smoked weed. I didn't smoke cigarette, none of that stuff. I was not a rebel at all. I was very, very square. I was square, but I was not Mormon. So I was fitting a square peg in a round hole because I didn't fit in anywhere. And yet, yeah, I learned how to drive stick shift so that I could drive my drunk friends home after their boyfriends that were older than us, way older, were too drunk to drive too, and I didn't feel safe. I was 15 years old. So I just pulled up high school. I just brought up all of high school into my head. It gets emotional. And when you're doing this reclamation of power ritual, it is emotional for a reason because you have trapped emotions in this. And again, I've gotten through most of my shit with high school. By the time this was happening, which was in January, I'd really gotten over most of it. I'm going to be 32 this year. And I've done a lot of inner work on the stuff that happened during high school and even before that. But that's what I meant by the fact that driving past the high school and seeing it being ripped down, causing an emotional reaction within me, told me that the school still had power over me somehow. That high school still had power over me because I was driving past it and was getting emotional over it. And an emotional in of course there's nostalgia, but this was a different type of thing where I was ooh, I think that it's still I still got, if they're going to tear it down and all that energy is just going to be dispersed out into anywhere, I might as well go and get my pieces back, right? So what you do is you go, if you can, you go there. If you can't go there, pull up a picture of it. So maybe your old high school has already been torn down. Or maybe you are never like, fuck that, I'm not going anywhere near my hometown. I'm never, ever, 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 ever setting foot in there. Those sorts of things, you can then just like pull up a picture of what it looked like, or pull up a picture in your mind, or find your old yearbook. Okay, I'm going to just go along with this high school analogy, but really this works for anything. It could be an old house. If it was your childhood, maybe your childhood home doesn't even exist anymore. Like my mom's house was turned into the I-5 highway in LA County. So she would be able to do this by pulling up of an old picture of her house and be able to look at her house and do it that way instead. So if you can go there, go there. If you can't, pull up a picture, like a 3D picture if you can. If it has to be digital, it has to. But the more 3D you can make the thing you're reclaiming your power from, the more 3D the power you're reclaiming is going to be able to then be transmuted into, right? It's like taking the base metals and turning it back into lead versus using like the ether and trying to condense it into gold, right? Sorry, using the base metals and turning it into gold. You still already have 3D base metals to turn it into gold versus like, okay, I'm just going to pull from the ether and condense it into gold. The more physical that you can make the base metals, the more you're sitting in the parking lot outside of the high school or holding on to your yearbook or that sort of stuff, it just strengthens the connection. Now, if you don't have anything at all, it's not going to be less powerful. It just might be a little bit harder to really focus it as quickly into a physical manifestation. If that's what you're wanting, if that's your outcome. You can also do this reclamation of power just to hold it and just to start expanding your field, which in that case, like that's what's going to happen if you don't. Like that's what's going to happen no matter what. I'm just letting you know based on my own experiences and experiences of my clients who also use this. The more 3D you can make it when you do the ritual, like again, sitting in the parking lot or having something that you can really hold on to, like an old boyfriend sweater or whatever, the more the reclamation feels 3D and real to you as well, and in this timeline, because there's a timeline where none of that stuff ever happened to you, right? Again, there's a timeline where I was the best actress in all of my high school and I ended up on Broadway and winning Tony Awards, and now in 2020 would be totally fucked because all of my shows have been canceled, right? And it's downpouring outside right now. So the the principle is very easy. You go to wherever it is, or you hold the yearbook, and you say, "Thank you for holding my power. I know that at one point I needed you to hold my power." And at this point, you can get really detailed. Thank you for holding my power when I was not capable of taking on the limelight of being the best actress in school. Whatever it is that you feel like you need to say, again, this is that point where you're trying to bring it into this dimension, into the physical reality, so you start speaking out loud. Thank you for holding my power. Thank you for holding my power when I wasn't able to. Thank you for bearing witness to me during this time. Thank you for holding me in your space. So if it's your childhood home, you could start being really grateful for the fact that at least you had a home. And even though a lot of fucked up shit happened inside of it, you still had four walls and you still had a warm place to live. And thank you for bearing witness to that. And thank you for holding the power that my 7-year-old self just was not able to hold, that I had unconsciously given away to my father when he was abusing me, or whatever it is for you. Because all of those fights that ever happen, that energy is in the walls. And unless you've been getting it saged on a regular basis, and even then, like the energy isn't just gone. When someone clears it, it's not that it's gone, it's that it's now neutralized. It no longer has the charge. But you can reclaim your power back from every fight that's ever happened. Anytime you've dispelled your energy in any way, or felt like someone was taking your power back, taking your power from you, that you didn't want them to have it, and yet they were the one in control, they were abusing you, they were using their control and their fear to take your power from you, on one plane of existence, we understand that we were giving it to them so that we could learn a lesson, right? That's not the plane we're talking about. That's why I want it to be as physical as possible, because here in this physical plane, especially when you were younger, before you knew all of this, someone was taking your power from you, or you were putting it out there and dispersing it and letting it soak away, and you were giving it out because you didn't feel worthy enough to hold it. So you were like, here, math teacher, here, football star player that I have a crush on but who doesn't even know my name, here, my boss at the ice cream parlor. All these places that we give our power away from too. I don't know why I'm focusing on high school so much, but whatever. I think it's because it's the time that we like start stepping into our power, and yet we're like constantly giving it away. And because my high school is literally under construction and getting torn down. So you say thank you, and you take a few minutes to really say thank you for holding my power, listing times that would have been the time that the power would have been held. And then you say, I'm ready to take it back. I am reclaiming my power from you. I am taking back any and all power that has been left with you in this lifetime and any parallel lifetimes. I'm reclaiming all power from this time and space and place in all dimensions to add to my field so that I can create a new earth, a new what, and then you just enter, like, so I can create fill in the blank. So I am reclaiming my power from the time, from this time and space, from this space, from this place, from all timelines. You kind of just play with it. I don't have it really written out exactly because it's a pretty personal thing that you end up doing. Step by step, again, just going to the place that it is, or holding the object, thanking the object, the place for holding your power, reclaiming it back, saying, I am taking it, and you say, I don't need you to hold it anymore. I am powerful enough to hold the power that has been left here. And then you just open yourself to receive. And again, tears will flow, laughter will happen, joints will pop, maybe you need to dance, maybe you need to scream, maybe you get turned on. There will be a physical, somato-emotional thing that occurs as a result of your power re-entering your field. Whoa. You lived in a haunted house for 7 years, Erica? That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, so you would. So you could, like, you don't even have to go inside of it. You just, like, pull up across the street from it and can do this ritual. I've had clients do it at the wedding chapel that they got married at because they were still in the middle of, like, the most horrible divorce. And it's been, like, 7 years since they got divorced, and they're still not finalized, and they had been married for 15 years prior to that. So this man had gotten, like, 21 years of this woman's life, and she couldn't figure out. And it was really because, like, he was holding all of her power. She had put a lot of her power into the wedding. She didn't even actually want to get married originally. I think I remember something crazy like their first church caught on fire, and then they ended up just going across the street to a different one. The same, like, it was weird. It was one of those things where you're like, you didn't think that your church burning down was an omen? But whatever. So it's, you can just go sit outside is what I'm trying to say. Like, I wasn't inside of my high school when they were tearing it down. I was just across the street from it doing this. And then that's it. Then you just say thank you again, say any final words, and you walk away. You don't need to have any special, there's no potion, there's no incense, there's none of that. If you want me to help you with, like, writing something out, you can always I don't know, this is YouTube. You can like, there's a way to message me or write in the comments, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram and send me a DM. I'm a real person. I answer all my emails. I really am like just me. I'm just me, future president of the United States, but I'm still just me. So if you wanted help really working out, if you like the idea of having it really spell crafty and you want it to be that way, I'd love to help you with that. If not, then really just those are the 4 steps. So again, go to the place if you can, have your yearbook or your whatever, or pull up a picture, go to Walgreens, spend 10 cents, print the damn thing off your phone if you need to, whatever. And again, if you really, really can't, if there's just no way that you can get any sort of physical representation of the place, then you'll have to do this all in your mind. And that's going to take more faith on your part that you are strong and capable. It's not impossible. I'm just telling you from my own experiences that I can feel like that when you get to the final step where you feel the power coming back in. I feel it so much more when I'm like holding on to the object. Like my son needed a helmet for his head, and it was like his head was flat on one side and I only nursed him on one side. I had all this stuff going on with my son during like that could be a whole other live stream. But I ended up just holding the helmet, right? And like even though I was really reclaiming the power from that entire like his pregnancy and his birth and that first year or two of his life where I just felt like such a failure of a person because I had gotten pregnant at 19 and all this other stuff, that worked, right? It is that simple. Like maybe it's something at your mom's house. Maybe it's that like you don't want to go to your mom's house for Thanksgiving. So can you pull up a picture from a previous Thanksgiving when you've gone to your mom's house and pull back all of that power from that, okay? You'll find that all of a sudden things that you used to avoid become easier. Because again, why are you doing this? Why do I need to reclaim my power? If you're someone who has been called a racist because you didn't know that you had white privilege, it can be really deflating to your ego, and it can be really hard for you to want to go then get back into the fight. Even though you yourself have been educated and you yourself realize that, holy shit, as a 30-something-year-old white woman who's cisgendered and straight and has ties to the community and who has money and blah, 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 I actually, yeah, that is privilege that I can use to fight this fight. Do you have the power to fight the fight? Do you have the power to stand in yourself so strongly that when a black person calls you racist, you're able to look at them and say, you know what? You don't know who I am. You have no idea what I've been through. You have no idea why I'm here. I thank you for reflecting that to me. I'm going to be able to go do some work on it, but you don't need to respond. You don't even need to say, no, I'm not a racist. You can just say thank you. But not until you've reclaimed your power from other times that you've been called a racist, right? So maybe you can't go back and you don't even remember. You just know that you have been. So this happened with me, and I just could remember, okay, when was the first time that I really, really, really got called the fuck out for being a white privileged bitch? And it was with a friend of mine. He's my godfather, the godfather of my kids, one of my best friends. So I just, I think I pulled up his picture on my phone because I didn't have anything else. Pulled up his phone number, pulled up the picture I've had on my phone for literally over a decade, and just sat there with it and did the same thing where I reclaimed my power from the moment that I was called a racist and told that I was white privileged, because I know that I've done all this work. Thank you for holding my power. Thank you for holding my power in this moment when I wasn't strong enough to hold it, but I am strong enough to hold it now, and I'm going to move forward with it so that I can create a world where racism truly doesn't exist. Not because I don't see color, because I fucking see it, but because I don't want my children and my grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren, to think that there's anything other than the human race. so that maybe in 6 generations, when someone says, I don't see color, like they don't even have to have that conversation because really every single person doesn't see it. That's worth it to me. That's worth having the awkward conversations too. I've told several people that I'm in the process of getting divorced and leaving my husband, and then my husband turned everything around during the lunar eclipse, during all these other astrological things. I have to reclaim my power from possible embarrassment, possible shame, possible any of that. I have to reclaim my power from not believing that he would want to fight for me, right? Think like just dismissing him. Oh no, I'm not worthy enough for you to want to do all these things. I've had plenty of catalysts in my life. Nothing's ever disrupted yours, but I'm gonna disrupt it real good and then just piece the fuck out, which is totally what I was about to do until he came to me and said, you don't understand that you're the most valuable thing on this planet. I really will do anything. And I only witnessed that level of ego death in my clients. So when I was witnessing it in my own husband, it would make me a hypocrite if I said, sorry, you don't get a chance to try. Right? But I had to reclaim my power from him. Reclaim my power from my house. I live in the house that I was raised in. I live in the house that I was abused in. I've been living in this house for 28 years, and I've been being abused in this house one way or another, physically and verbally and emotionally, from my father all the way up to some pretty intense verbal and emotional shit with my husband. And I've been just as guilty. I've been abusive as well. There's a lot of energy in this house that has been being circulated. And luckily for me, I'm now to the point where I do these rituals. Like I said, I did it on the mountain. I do it without even meaning to anymore. But I realized that, and that's why I wanted to take 40 minutes of your time today and really explain this process of how can you have an experience that, again, I know a lot of my clients that are like, yeah, I talk about that all the time. Like, I get that I was raped and blah, blah, blah. That's part of my story. And, like, you can tell that, like, when they are telling the story about their assault and their rape, they don't really care about telling it. And yet, there's not this power charge. They haven't actually taken back their power from the situation. They've released the trauma of the situation, but they haven't reclaimed their power from it. So that's the biggest distinction that I can give you, is there really is energetically a potency to consciously saying, I reclaim my power from this moment. Thank you for holding on to my power. I don't need you to hold it anymore. I'm going to hold it, and with the power from this moment, I'm going to create the most beautiful life. So usually I don't even get very specific. I will create expanding love, prosperity, and success in every area of my life, and I will inspire others to do the same. I'll do something like that that's very general, but still focusing it towards my end goal. Or I will use all this power to make sure that I truly am a leader of this earth that does not use control, power, and abuse as tactics with my, whatever. That, again, this is a very personal thing, and I really just wanted you guys to get the highlights of it. So, does anyone have any questions real quick before we end here? Because I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. Okay, cool. So that is all. Make sure that you find me on Facebook. I'm there if you want to see my posts and all of that. The website is going to be getting redone. A lot of my Facebook posts are going to be being put up as blog posts. I'm really just phasing off of Facebook because of how much wonderful censorship goes on over there. I'll be more on Instagram probably. For some reason they don't censor as much, probably because things are shorter. Really just trying to move out into the world and off of these social media platforms and onto bigger platforms as I expand and grow. Again, constantly expanding and growing in my own life so that my clients can grow, so that everyone who is in my sphere can grow, and eventually the whole world can grow, because honestly, I am no different than those people on the other side of the world who would have taken one look at my daughter and thrown her off a cliff. I'm not. I'm just not. I'm not different than anyone else. I'm no different than you. I'm no different than Donald Trump. I'm no different than the Queen Elizabeth. I'm no different than Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa. We are all one, and we are all uniquely formulated. We're all uniquely expressing our frequency of all those different fractals. So I'm choosing to create mine in a way that expands and is always getting bigger and brighter and inspiring others to get bigger and brighter and to not live in density and to not live in fear and to not live in scarcity and to truly realize that they don't need to live within the constructs of time and space, that they just need to live within the construct of the energy of love that creates, and your life really will become a constant stream of miracles. Constant. So, I love you. Thank you, Erica. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, everyone. And I will see you next week at 10 a.m. for Sunday Morning Coffee with Caryn.